Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
I'm with Pakistan's very well-known journalist, Hamid, anchor with Geo News, with his own show called Capital Talk, and Munizae Jahangir, an anchor with Aaj TV, which is, again, one of Pakistan's privately held TV channels. Both of you, welcome to the Print Debates.
Thank you.
So my question to both you and Hamid, to yourself and to Munizae, is about these big rallies जो जलसा अभी कराची में कल हुआ है और उसके पहले पिछले हफ्ते गुजरांवाला में. तो आपकी राय में what is the importance of these huge opposition rallies which are coming together to take on Prime Minister Imran Khan?
The two rallies held in Gujranwala and Karachi, no doubt both rallies were very big. Lot of people participated in those rallies. The important thing is that this is the first time that some Baloch and Pashtun leaders who never got an opportunity to present their case to the people of Punjab. So in Gujranwala, when I was hearing the speech of Dr. Malik Baloch, who is the president of the National Party, and Mahmood Khan Achakzai, who is the president of the Pakhtunkhwa Milli Awami Party, and they were getting a clap from the pure Punjabis. They were not addressing people in Lahore. Actually, they were addressing the people of Gujranwala, and Gujranwala is famous for its wrestlers. So it's a pure Punjab, the land of Jats and Kashmiris and Rajputs. So they were getting a clap from the people of central Punjab, and Mahmood Khan Achakzai was looking very impressed. So as a Pakistani, I think that it is very important for me that those people who always blamed Punjab for their agony and for their problems, especially people like Achakzai and Dr. Malik. So they were getting an opportunity to present their case, and they were very impressed, and the Punjabis were clapping for them. So that is very important for me. The second thing is that it was a collaboration, an alliance of right and center and left. Maulana Fazlur Rehman is extreme right, People's Party is center, and Dr. Malik and Mahmood Khan Achakzai, they are extreme left. There were some other people also present there, like Professor Sajid Mir, who is a senator, and he belongs to the Wahhabi school of thought. Then Mr. Awais Nurani, who belongs to the Barelvi school of thought. So it's also very important that the Pakistan Democratic Movement, they were able to unite not only the Barelvis, the Ahle Hadith and the Deobandis, but also they were able to unite right, left and the center. So I think that after a very long time, these people, 11 parties, 11 parties are religious parties, liberal parties, rightist parties, leftist parties, they are united, and they are presenting a case for the rule of law and for the supremacy of the constitution.
Munizae, in your view, these several opposition parties that came together, Hamid just described them as this full political spectrum from extreme left, centrist, and extreme right. Now that is really fascinating. But explain to us, what is the significance of the timing? Why is it, elections in Pakistan are going to be held 4 years from now. So why is the opposition coming together today?
Jyoti, a lot of people felt that the opposition should have come together a long time earlier. Now, in Pakistan, what we have seen, which is perhaps, it has become more and more apparent that civil society has the ability to organize itself without political participation. So all of these last 2 years, we have seen student rallies, and how has the state reacted? Just like your state, they have slapped them with sedition charges. And that is the first interface that young students had with the state under Imran Khan. And Imran Khan was the one who used to say, I am the party of the youth. What does he do when young people come out on the streets? They slap them with sedition charges. And though he said he's against it, and his ministers gave statements against them, but those students are still contesting those sedition charges in court. Similarly, women. Look at the way women came out. There was a very infamous motorway gang rape case here recently, in which what was alarming was not that the rape happened, but that the CCPO of Punjab came out and said, well, if women, have to, if women travel outside of their homes after 1 p.m., then, these things can happen. There was a complete national outcry after that, and women took to the streets in thousands across Pakistan. So just at the moment, we have lady health workers and all kinds of, medical doctors, etc. They are marching and they've had a dharna in front of the parliament now for 6 days.
Mhm.
So Maryam Nawaz today very rightly said that people have overtaken politicians.
Right.
And this was late in coming. On the other hand, when you push somebody to the wall, then what choice do they have but to fight back? And
Right.
it's a similar case with the opposition. All of them, their wives, their daughters, their mothers have been slapped with NAP charges. Now, these are not even charges. Some of them are not even complaints.
Mhm.
And therefore, there is a fight back going on for the salvation of the opposition to have that kind of voice here in the political arena, and also that people are overtaking this
Right.
movement. And,
Right.
I would like to add to what Hamid Mir Saab said.
Mhm.
Akhtar Mengal is somebody who had very big differences with the Pakistan People's Party, because Bhutto was a leader who had harmed his family a long time ago.
Okay.
It was amazing for me to see Akhtar Mengal up on the stage, having forgotten very stark past differences
Right.
and personal animosity, and come out and talk about what is happening in Balochistan. What was amazing to me was that in the cities of Karachi, Lahore, these are mainstream cities where you never hear what is happening in the south of Balochistan, what is happening in Waziristan. Human rights abuses, whether they be extrajudicial killing, whether they be missing persons, those issues were talked about, and they struck a chord in
Right.
the heart of Punjabis and in the heart of Sindhis.
Sure.
That to me was something that was amazing.
So Hamid, you were shaking your head. Abhi jab Munizae ne kaha about, she was talking about Akhtar Mengal. Do you agree with what she said? And I have a follow-up question for you.
I think that I don't agree with Munizae with due respect, because Akhtar Mengal, yes, it is right that his father Ataullah Mengal was Chief Minister of Balochistan in 1973, and Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was Prime Minister, and he dismissed his government in Balochistan. But Zulfikar Ali Bhutto never harmed his family. His family was harmed by the military generals. And I would like to quote the book written by Mr. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto in Rawalpindi jail. He wrote 2 books. The name of the one book is If I Am Assassinated. That is very famous. But he wrote another book. The name of the other book is Rumor and Reality. In that book, he narrated the whole incident, that how the son of Ataullah Mengal and the brother of Akhtar Mengal, his name was Asadullah Mengal, how was he kidnapped by the Pakistan Army commandos from Karachi.
Mm-hmm.
He was kidnapped from Karachi, and then there was a scuffle. There was another guy with Asadullah Mengal, and then unfortunately Asadullah Mengal was killed, and his dead body was buried near Thatha. Thatha is a city in Sindh.
Okay.
And Bhutto Sahab wrote in his book that next day I was in Peshawar when I came to know about that incident. So I called Chief Minister Sindh, Ghulam Mustafa Jatoi, and he said, I don't know. He said that IGP is not aware about that incident.
Mm-hmm.
And that was 1976. And Tika Khan was the army chief, but Ziaul Haq was announced as the new army chief.
Right.
So Bhutto Sahab spoke to Tika Khan. What happened? That Tika Khan was a very straightforward, bold person. He said, "Sir, our boys picked up Asadullah Mangal. He is killed." So Bhutto Sahab said, "What are you talking? You killed the son of our chief minister, and you are telling me, sir, he is killed?" He said, "Yes, sir. General Ziaul Haq, General Rahimuddin, and General Jahangir, they kidnapped. They ordered for that. So they are saying that let's forget the boy. And sir, you can say that the boy was a terrorist and he ran away to Afghanistan. That's it, sir." So Bhutto Sahab wrote in his book that Asadullah Mangal was kidnapped by the Pakistan on the orders of Pakistan Army generals, and he was writing that book in a prison. So he was actually confessing that he was not able to speak truth when he was in power. So I think the same book was presented by Akhtar Mangal in Supreme Court of Pakistan in 2011, and he said that the dead body of my elder brother Asadullah Mangal is still missing. So that's why yesterday Asadullah Mangal was, when he was talking about the missing persons and he was talking about the mutilated dead bodies, bullet-riddled dead bodies. So actually you can understand, you can feel his own tragedy, which Zulfikar Ali Bhutto narrated in his book.
So I have a follow-up question for you, Hamid, which is, you just talked about the role of the Pakistani generals from Tika Khan and perhaps till today. Now, Nawaz Sharif, former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, in the Gujranwala rally. By the way, my father's family is from Gujranwala, so I feel very, I feel very close to what happens in Gujranwala. But, Nawaz Sharif Saab was very openly from his house in London, in his address to the people in that rally, he talked about the generals, the army, how it had interfered in the political process and how he had been removed from the prime ministership, although it was during the election process.
I think that Nawaz Sharif delivered about 4 speeches since last 2-3 weeks. And I think at least 2 times he clarified that he is not against the whole Pakistan army. He even said that he has a lot of regard for all those troops who are guarding the frontiers of Pakistan on borders. But the problem is few individuals. And he named at least 2 individuals. 2 individuals are serving generals and 2 individuals are retired generals. So he is talking about them, and this is not the first time. I think that Nawaz Sharif is not the first politician in Pakistan, or he's not the first Punjabi politician who is naming some generals. There are some people who are claiming that Nawaz Sharif is the first Punjabi politician who is naming and blaming the generals. I think the first politician from Punjab is Imran Khan. Imran Khan, if you read his book, it is still lying on my table, his personal history, which was published in 2011. So he clearly wrote that how General Pervez Musharraf and General Ehtisham Zamir and some other generals, how they manipulated the 2002 elections, and they were offering him some seats, and he was not ready to join the Grand National Alliance. And then he said that the ISI threatened my colleagues, and they forced them to join PMLQ, which was a new party created by General Pervez Musharraf. So it is all, you can read the book, and then in many interviews which he gave to me, he said it openly. He named ISI, other people. So I think Nawaz Sharif is only repeating what Imran Khan has been saying about the role of intelligence agencies and the military generals between 2002 and 2013. Imran Khan stopped talking about these people and agencies after 2014, when he came into contact with General Zahirul Islam, who was the head of the ISI at that time. Right. So after that, he stopped taking their names. But I think that Nawaz Sharif is not doing anything new. He is actually following the footsteps of Imran Khan, who is fortunately or unfortunately, who is now the Prime Minister of Pakistan.
So, Munizae, I'm glad that you're back because your phone keeps disappearing, your internet. But Munizae, tell me, October 18th, when the big rally was held in Karachi, now that is the anniversary of the return to Pakistan of former Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto in I think it was 2007 when she returned, so 13 years ago. So was that the reason why this rally was held? Is that date significant to the people of Pakistan? Do you think it was important that Bilawal Bhutto, who I think spoke actually quite very passionately, and the fact that he was on the say, he shared the stage with his political antagonists like Maryam Nawaz Sharif. What is the significance of that?
Well, I mean, I didn't get the last part of your question, but you were asking about the significance of the 18th of October, the Karsad bomb blast. I happened to be there when it happened. At the time when Benazir Bhutto came back after many years of self-exile. It was under General Musharraf's regime. And in fact, over 100 people were killed on that day when the bomb blast took place. And I remember the rally had gone on so well that day. And things were looking so good that I said, anybody is going to be crazy to want to have a bomb blast. They're going to be ripped to pieces. But that's exactly what happened. Right after midnight, there was a bomb blast. There were two, in fact, and one after the other. And a lot of people thought like me. I thought it was a tire blast. And I ran in the other direction, and there was another one. So yes, there is a big significance to it. There is a significance because Pakistan People's Party has been associated very closely with the democratic movement in Pakistan. Not just Bhutto, but also Benazir Bhutto and the way she took on dictators, whether it was Yaul Haq or whether it was later on General Musharraf.
What is the significance of Bilawal sharing a stage with Maryam Nawaz Sharif? After all, aren't they antagonists? Aren't they political antagonists?
Not really, because I think that Benazir and Nawaz Sharif had come a long way. If you remember that they signed the Charter of Democracy in 2006 before they arrived back in Pakistan, and that was a golden moment. I mean, here there was General Musharraf in Pakistan, and there they were in London, the two biggest leaders of at that time the two biggest political parties in Pakistan People's Party and PMLN, and they had forgotten the differences of the past, and they had come together to fight the dictator at home. So that Charter of Democracy, which we keep talking to and which the politicians keep alluding to, is very important. Sadly, they did not actually implement that Charter of Democracy. And if had they done that, I think Pakistan's fate would have been very different. And the way democracy, the way they have now struggled to reinforce their own political parties and to grapple with democracy, that would not have happened. So the Charter of Democracy really laid down what needs to be done in order to have a democratic framework in which political parties can operate without fear or favor.
Okay.
That really never happened. So I think that if Bilawal Bhutto and Maryam Nawaz, they don't really need to reinvent the wheel. If they go back to that Charter of Democracy, it still has the essential ingredients to bring Pakistan to a democratic path.
Right. So, Hamid, you talked about how Imran Khan was among the first politicians who talked about the interference of the army, of the generals in the political process. But both Bilawal Bhutto in the Karachi rally, as well as Maryam Nawaz Sharif, she was much less antagonistic than her father was in Gujranwala. But Bilawal very clearly said that he is a selected prime minister. So, इसका क्या मतलब हुआ? In India, we don't understand this. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is an elected prime minister. We may like it or not. लेकिन 320 सीटें उनके पास आई हैं लोकसभा के अंदर. तो ये जो selected शब्द है, इसका क्या मतलब है?
एक तो तुसी इंडिया वाले बड़े मासूम लोग, बड़े इनोसेंट, मैं ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਤੇ
पंजाबी किसी को नहीं समझ आती है.
I love your innocence that you don't understand what is the meaning of selected.
So you have to tell us what this means.
If Bilawal is saying that Imran Khan is selected, so I think he also mentioned about the selectors. And Maulana Fazlur Rehman also mentioned about the selectors.
Who are the
Maryam
selectors?
Nawaz also mentioned about the selectors. So these are the selectors who actually selected Imran Khan. So if the whole opposition is shouting in Gujranwala and in Karachi that the 2018 election was rigged, it was a rigged election, we don't accept the results, and he's selected, it is selected, it means that if Nawaz Sharif is naming some people, he is mentioning the names of some individuals, he think actually they are the selectors who selected Imran Khan, and Imran Khan ruined the economy of Pakistan. And according to Maulana Fazlur Rehman and Maryam Nawaz and Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, these days Imran Khan is playing in the hands of Mr. Narendra Modi. That's what they said. So maybe the selectors mean the selectors inside Pakistan and selectors outside Pakistan. And the main selector outside Pakistan is Mr. Narendra Modi, because yesterday's speech, if you analyze the whole speech of Maryam Nawaz, so she clearly mentioned that it was Imran Khan who predicted the victory of Narendra Modi, and he said that if Modi will come into power, so Kashmir problem will be resolved.
Well, I think the mention of Narendra Modi by Maryam Nawaz Sharif, I think she was, because she has been targeted now by Prime Minister Imran Khan कि आपके घर आपके यहाँ जो शादी हुई थी, and you remember that PM Modi went for that शादी in 2015. But the question is कि inside Pakistan selectors कौन है?
Inside Pakistan selectors वो हैं जिनका नाम नवाज शरीफ ने लिया. जो नवाज शरीफ ने नाम लिया था वो आपको अच्छी तरह पता है. एक आर्मी का नाम लिया,
फौज की बात कर,
हाँ, तो फौज की बात कर रहा है. लेकिन आप सिर्फ ये ना देखिए ना कि सिर्फ मरियम नवाज ने, it was not only Maryam Nawaz who mentioned Modi. Maulana Fazlur Rehman also mentioned Modi. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari also mentioned Modi, and even Akhtar Mengal tried to make a comparison between the situation of Balochistan with Kashmir. So you see, there is one common thing in these speeches of Fazlur Rehman, Maryam Nawaz and Bilawal. They said Imran Khan is Kashmir Farosh. You know what is the meaning of Kashmir Farosh? The seller of Kashmir. The seller of Kashmir. So there is something going on between Imran Khan and Modi which we don't know.
कौन सी कश्मीर की बात कर रहे हैं? हमारे कश्मीर की बात कर रहे हैं कि आप अपने कश्मीर की बात कर रहे हैं? क्योंकि
yesterday our leaders, opposition leaders, they were talking about both Kashmirs, because now this is the Imran Khan government, with first government in Pakistan who actually registered a treason case against the Prime Minister of Azad Kashmir, Raja Farooq Haider. So right. it was mentioned by many leaders yesterday. So I think that you cannot say that it's only Maryam Nawaz who is mentioning Kashmir. All leaders of the big parties, they were trying their level best to make some link of Imran Khan with Modi.
अच्छा, but tell me something. जो पाकिस्तान जब ये गुजरांवाला रैली के बाद प्राइम मिनिस्टर इमरान खान ने एक टाइगर फोर्स के सामने एक जो है उनकी कोई रैली थी या स्पीच. So what is this tiger force? ये करते क्या हैं ये लोग?
Are you asking this question?
I'm asking this question to you, Hamid. और दूसरा उन्होंने उस स्पीच में भी इस तरीके से इशारा किया था कि जैसे what does that mean? क्योंकि उसमें हाँ.
Yeah, you are from Gujranwala and you don't know.
I am now from Delhi.
इसका मतलब है तेरे में देख लांगा. It's like this. जो गुंडा बदमाश होता है ना, वो इस तरह करके कहता है तुझे मैं देख लूंगा. I will see you. Okay, I will see you. So the Tiger Force is actually when this coronavirus was started. So our government announced the making of Tiger Force. They asked people of Pakistan to register their name as volunteers. So they are not actually volunteers. They are actually the members and supporters and voters of the ruling party, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. And actually, they were given the task to help the government for distributing relief goods among the affectees. But now it's become a political force. So by delivering a speech, by delivering a political speech in front of the so-called Tiger Force, Imran Khan actually proved that this Tiger Force is not a volunteer force. It is actually his Federal Security Force. Federal Security Force was created by Zulfikar Ali Bhutto in 70s, but it was, you see, a paid force. But this force is not a paid force. This is a so-called volunteer force.
Last couple of questions to you, Munizae. The question about the timing of this Pakistan Democratic Movement. The next rally is in Quetta. Now, do you think that the opposition will be able to sustain the temperature that they have created? And do you think that Imran Khan, that it has affected his prime ministership?
Okay. You're talking about the Tiger Force. Now, the Tiger Force actually is not a legal force. There's a big question mark on what is the legality of this Tiger Force, because they were actually created to assist during the lockdowns under the COVID pandemic. And then they became all about checking price hike, food inflation in Pakistan, and hoarding and etc. like that. But there is actually no legal significance that they have. And one of the biggest criticism is that this government hasn't really held local body elections as they were supposed to do. There was one reason or the other why the local government body elections were not held. One of them was also the census. Our census report, our formal census report, has not been released yet, and there is a contention over that census report. So the Tiger Force, everybody is asking that, is the Tiger Force in preparation to almost manipulate, take the election, have an alternative system in place by the PTI, where they are preparing another force for the local body elections? And is that really fair for a free and a fair local body election? So I think that's very important to know that, the Tiger Force at the moment, and I honestly, I've covered Afghanistan, and I see it almost like a vigilante moral force that the Taliban also created. If you remember, they would go to different shops in Kabul and check the price hike, etc., and all of that. So I'm very skeptical of this Tiger Force. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I would like to add here also, and very respectfully, I feel that Nawaz Sharif is the first popular leader who has attacked the military in such a full frontal attack, sitting military army chief and ISI chief. Imran Khan may have done it, but he was not that popular at that time. Nawaz Sharif, by today, is 3 times Prime Minister. He has one of the largest political parties in Punjab. So, I mean, apart from the PTI, so I think that there is definitely a difference. Now, whether the opposition will be able to keep the momentum and build the momentum, and yes, of course, I think that they will be able to, but there are big challenges. The challenges are that all these opposition parties have been at each other's throats in the recent past. They contest elections against each other. So, of course, there is that. But I think that the government has made it very easy on them, because they have pressurized them in so many ways, through NAPCO cases, through statements, the kind of politics that we have seen in this country, we have not seen in the last 20 years, the gali galoch, the debasing of the political debate. All of that has come in now, and I think that would perhaps give them, the impetus to stay together.
Right, Hamid. Last question to you. I think Munizae's point about Nawaz Sharif taking on the generals in a full and frontal attack is very significant. But last question to you is that yesterday, when we were watching the Jalsa in Karachi, the line kept dropping. Of course, we were watching it on Jio, then watching it on Channel 24, various Pakistani channels, and then finally watched it live on the People's Party YouTube live. But tell me, there has been a lot of talk of censoring these rallies. Is that true? And in your view, what is the relationship now between the media and the establishment?
You see, when the speech of Nawaz Sharif was censored, and the Pakistan Electronic Media Regulatory Authority issued an order that no Pakistani channel can show the speech of Nawaz Sharif, at that time I raised a question that I want to ask Nawaz Sharif a very simple question, that now you are attacking General Bajwa and you are saying that General Bajwa is the selector and Imran Khan is the selected. So if General Bajwa rigged 2018 election, then why your party and yourself supported extension in his services in 2019? So this is a very important question, that today Nawaz Sharif is raising questions about General Bajwa, and same Nawaz Sharif and his party, they supported his extension in 2019 and they are talking about rigging in 2018. So by
Extension
imposing
as army chief.
yes, extension and as army chief, both People's Party and
Yes,
PMLN, both Nawaz Sharif and Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, they
That's a very
supported the extension. So this is the contradiction. That's why when Nawaz Sharif come out and speak against the generals, a lot of people like me, it's very difficult for us to actually believe that Nawaz Sharif will continue this narrative or this stand. So this is the problem. And by imposing restrictions on Pakistani media, that you cannot interview Nawaz Sharif and you cannot show his speech, the government is actually helping Nawaz Sharif, because if I will not have an opportunity to ask this very important question to Nawaz Sharif, so because I cannot air it on my channel, so who is the beneficiary? So Nawaz Sharif is the beneficiary. The second thing is that yesterday, most of the Baloch and Pashtun leaders were censored because they were talking about missing persons, they were talking about security establishment, they were talking about the rights of the smaller provinces, and this is the issue on which some powerful people in our security establishment, they are not ready even to listen to their point of view. So that's why in the beginning of this conversation I said that it was very important for me as a Pakistani that in the public meeting of Gujranwala, these Baloch and Pashtun leaders were able to present their case and their views directly in front of the people of Punjab, because right now the main Pakistani electronic media channels, like including my channel, so we are not allowed to air the views of Akhtar Mengal and Mahmood Khan Atakzai and Dr. Malik and many other leaders. So that's why these public meetings and the rallies organized by opposition are very important. Especially these rallies in Punjab are very important, because the people of Punjab, they need to know that why the smaller provinces are not happy with that.
Munizae, you have the last word.
Yeah, Jyoti, I'd just like to add very quickly over here. I have a big problem with, what is happening in Pakistan in terms of freedom of expression. Now, in Pakistan, the military has always been the center story, but we are not allowed to talk about it in the Pakistani press. So it's like talking about the white elephant in the room, and we have there are different pseudonyms for them that the politicians use. They are called farishte, they are called, Khalai Makhlook, sometimes they're called the agriculture department, but they are skirting around the main issue. The main issue has always been the military and the interference of the military in Pakistani politics. Now, so that is where my problem lies as a journalist. How do I tell the story without including the main character of that story? That is the dilemma that we as journalists face. The other issue is that you asked about the relationship of the media with the establishment. I have to say that for the first, it has happened before, but after a very long time, we have seen sedition charges being slapped onto journalists. And it won't be people like Mr. Mir, who's prominent, etc., and all of that. I mean, he has been through, mind you, there have been charges slapped on him also. But the same complainants who would slap a charge against him would be used to slap a charge against another journalist who may not be very well known, just to instill a fear amongst us not to talk about these kind of issues, even within our own personal realm, which is on our own Facebook accounts. And when I investigate who are these complainants, one is a factory worker. How can a factory worker look up the PICA law, have a smartphone, have access to Twitter accounts, and then file this complaint? I find it very hard to believe. And when we try and trace these people, they are reluctant to speak to us. Maybe sometimes they don't even exist. So, I mean, I'm asking the question, okay, you have banned Nawaz Sharif, but how can you ban a person? You can ban a speech, but you cannot ban a person. So I think that these legal questions need to be asked, and they need to be asked in a court of law of how you can ban speech, but can you ban a person? And that is really, I think, the question right now that journalists should be asking.
Right. Thank you, Munizae. I think we've lost Hamid Mir, but he may not have sedition charges against him, but he has 2 bullets in his body, which obviously somebody was trying to target him and silence his freedom of speech and expression. But thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Hamid Mir, although you're not here, but I will send you a message. Thank you again, both of you, and keep the flag of independent media flying in Pakistan. Thanks again.